Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Monday. Hey, Tom.
How are you, Bob?
I am good. I got a little sun, I noticed, as I look on screen, so that's a good thing. Did some gardening yesterday, and my shirt's got the, worried about this shirt. It's doing the weird thing, isn't it?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
When I move, does it? Okay. It's all good.
I don't know. Either way.
I'm in my office, which I rarely have been to. This is probably the fifth time I've been here in the last year. It's nice to be back. There's an echo I've got to deal with.
It's funny, well, that is sort of the norm for you. I was thinking about this as we were getting ready to go on. That is not the norm for today's Antidote. I don't think you've ever done a broadcast from here.
I think I did. No, I think you're right. Yeah, this is new turf. Yeah.
So it's interesting how, something that you're returning to as normal isn't necessarily normal for whatever the new situation is now. It's interesting.
And I will talk more about feeling pressure, but I felt pressure this morning because I had to have all my stuff. I had to pack a lunch. I had to make sure I had my charger for my phone, and there was a whole bunch of logistical things that at 6:25, I was like, well, if I forget the charger for my computer, I won't be able to stay all day. And it was quite the pressure fest.
Yeah. Well, good morning, everyone. As you can tell, that's Bob. I'm Tom, and this is today's Antidote, our daily broadcast, where we try to provide that one thing that may help you today or may help you somewhere down the road. We will come to that as a conversation about a topic. Today's topic is going to be about feeling pressured and what it is. And we hope that you will share your thoughts throughout this discussion, because we know that adds to what we have to say, and that you have a different knowledge, experience, and perspective than we do. And so it might be helpful. And we hope at the end that if you have one, you share your one thing, because we also know that can be beneficial as well. So before we dive into our topic today about feeling pressured and what it is, Bob, do you want to talk a little bit about, since now it actually is May, talk about some of the events that we have coming up in May?
I would love to, Tom. Thank you for the opportunity. Hey, there's always the Renegade Roundup networking events, Tuesday, May 11th and Thursday, May 27th. That's right, the Thursday right before Memorial Day. Get your networking on before you go into the holiday weekend. I'm sure the questions we'll ask that day will have something to do with planning for the holiday and for the summer. I would almost guarantee it. And those are at 8:30 for May 11th, 4 p.m. for May 27th, and every single Wednesday. That's right, every single Wednesday, right smack dab in the middle of the week, we've got the Ring of Renegades check-in and check-up. It's a great chance to take stock of where you are for the week and where you're going for the week. And you also get to network and meet other business leaders and learn a lot about them, the types of things that they typically don't share at these types of events, but they love to share. And in the few that we've done, we have had a great many people who have really networked and really found common ground and worked together afterwards. So all that's on tap for May. Don't miss it.
That was good. That's a lot.
Thank you.
It's going to be a busy month.
And I heard someone come into my office. I work in a building, as you know, with a couple of floors. And I heard someone coming downstairs, and they were banging on the floor, or on their ceiling, my floor. So I think that was, Bob, you're being too loud again.
Or you need to put up a sign up. Please be quiet. I'm broadcasting.
I don't want them to know.
Okay. All right. Then there's that. Must be you're feeling a little pressure about that.
Yes, I am.
So today we are going to talk a little bit about feeling pressure, which I think is something we all go through and all have to deal with at some point, whether we are the ones feeling it or sometimes we are the ones who put it on others. And, so talking a little bit about what that means, we'll get into more of that more specifically throughout the week. But we thought we would at least try to talk a little bit about what it is and maybe share some of our experiences about feeling pressured. So, Bob, do you want to kick things off today?
Sure. You said a couple of minutes ago, Tom, and I don't want to say that you're wrong, but you said we all experience pressure from time to time. I feel like I experience pressure more often than not. I would say I'm creating pressure on myself, or I perceive that others are putting pressure on me all the time. Even with you, you don't pressure me at all. You're probably the least pressure creating person in my world, but there are things where I'm like, Tom's counting on me to get this done. I really need to do this today. So I think there's an element of this that is internal and also external. If your boss gives you a deadline of noon today to get something done, that's pressure. Unless it's something really easy to do. By the same token, I could pressure myself and say, I'm going to get something done by noon today. And both of those are pressures. And I think some of us almost, I don't want to say love the pressure, but I do like a day where I accomplish things under pressure. And my background is journalism. So for 7 or 8 years, I worked on a weekly newspaper where we had a deadline Tuesday night and Thursday morning every week. And I would spend my Tuesdays running around like a chicken without wings every week. I'd accomplish it, and then Wednesday I'd take a deep breath. And to this day, Tuesday, if you looked at my productivity, when I get to Tuesday, it's like a big day for getting stuff done because I've always had that Tuesday is the get done day, all self-imposed.
Is that just you self-impose that because you have a deadline? Or is it, because I guess my question is, anytime you have a deadline, do you feel pressure?
No, not now. No. I have, let me think, 4 deadlines this week. I don't feel any pressure over any of those 4. I feel a lot of pressure to do things that are not deadline oriented. Make outbound calls to people I need to check in with. Do some work for one of my clients. Those things, but they're not, those are neither of those is anyone holding any kind of power over me to make them get done. They're on my time.
Interesting. Yeah, you said you feel pressure more often than not.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I don't know that deadlines were ever a pressure for me. I almost kind of like the deadline because it's like, all right, at some point I just have to be done by that time. And it's going to be whatever it's going to be. Hopefully it's the best that I can do. And I know that sometimes that's not always the case.
You do work to a deadline, though.
Absolutely.
If we say something's going to be done today, you'll get it done today, but it might be 11:57.
Absolutely. There is no doubt that that is just a part of whatever, for whatever reason, that's the style that I've done, is I feel like and I guess maybe that has allowed me not to put pressure on myself. It's like, okay, I said I'm going to do it, so I just have to do it, whatever it's going to be. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, pressure. I think, is it truly there, or is it something that we just make up as a part of what we perceive to be pressure? Your boss gives you a deadline. You gave that example earlier of something being due. Are they putting pressure on you, or are they just giving you a deadline and you are feeling that? And maybe it's in the way in which it's delivered, and how often they check in or ask about when it's going to be done.
And also how it's received.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's your perception.
Right. I mean, I think it's a two-way street, right? And I think often leaders, managers, bosses aren't imposing pressure, but we feel it. When the president of the company says to you, hey, I really need this memo. Can you write this for me? I would drop everything and get it done. It's like, that's the CEO. They might have been expecting it a week from now. And I think we default to worst case, like, oh, they need it right now versus, sure, I'd be happy to do that. When do you need it? And I know with clients, I've had to learn, don't impose pressure that doesn't need to be there. I'll say, oh, I can have something done for you in 3 days. And they're like, oh, I was expecting more like a week or two. Okay, from now on, I'm asking them because I've added pressure to it because I've set the expectation. And that's really what pressure is all about, right? It's not managing expectations either in our head or in the real world effectively.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to think about it. Or, I think it's also, I was trying to think about it, where it shows up in my life. And, sometimes it shows up like you're forced to do something. I was just thinking about it as in terms of lacrosse. You have an offensive player who goes hard to goal. Now, likely there's a good chance there's going to be some contact. They could end up in the goal circle. There's a lot. And you feel like, okay, someone is doing something that is causing me to have a reaction. And feeling like, how am I going to figure out what is the right reaction to have based on that situation? Because a lot of times people would look at that and be like, there are going to be two different sides. One is the offensive player charged or ended up in the goal circle. The other is going to be that defense got in the way or that they pushed them into the goal circle. And so there's going to be a foul. And you call one or the other and everyone else is going to be upset. And you have been like sort of painted into a corner where whatever decision you make might not be, somebody is not going to be happy with it. And I think that happens in our work sometimes with our, your boss comes in and says, you need to do this now, or you need to make this decision. Like those are the things that I had that happen in a game. 5 minutes into the game, one of my partners came up and said, you got to make that call. I was kind of like, I didn't really see anything. But now I felt like, okay, what am I missing that they are seeing that I'm not? And it changed, I think, the way I watched the game for a while, which was hard. I think if someone comes in and says, this is the best way to do it, and you're like, it's not necessarily the case. I once had somebody come in and say, this is somebody I think we need to get rid of. And I was like, I don't know that that's the best decision. And I don't know that you're seeing what I'm seeing. And I think that was the pressure of how do I do what I think is right or what I think someone else expects me to do. And, I think those are sometimes the places where pressure really comes in and you're like, one way or the other, somebody's going to be upset. And you're either going to do what you think is right or you're going to do what someone else is telling you have to do.
How about some comments, Tom? We've got, without pressure, we'd all have a very bad day. I can't figure out who said that. I'm having some issues with that in my new setup. I live in the pressure cooker. I have a hunch I know who that is, but I'm not sure. Protect your joy. I know that's John Hanson because he tells me that all the time. We also have a reference to David Bowie and Queen, Under Pressure. That would be from John Hanson as well. I think we generally put pressure on ourselves more than anything. Thank you, Carol Williams, for that. That's a great, I think we generally put it on ourselves, not other people putting it on us. And then from Tim, at the very least, we need around 860 millibars. Below that, we have problems breathing. Life thrives under pressure. Without pressure, most life, barring tardigrades and a few other forms of microbial life, doesn't do well at all.
Yeah, I understand where he's going with
I'd like you to comment on that, Tom, please.
Yeah, I understand where he's going with it. I don't completely understand everything in that sentence. But
I don't know what a tardigrade is. I got to tell you. Wow.
It must be some microbial life. I don't know. But I think Carol's probably right. Thanks, Carol, for commenting that we generally put pressure on ourselves more than anything, because we have we have expectations. I won't say high. We have expectations of what we either want to achieve or we want to I guess, what we want to achieve. And when we are not necessarily at that point, there becomes the pressure of, and it might not be somebody else, although it could be, putting pressure on us to achieve that point. I see it a lot of times with parents and kids, especially today. So many parents are pressuring kids to do this to the fullest extent, whether the kid really wants to or not. And I think sometimes, that's where we get into, is that somebody had said before that, what did they say? Without pressure, we'd all have a very bad day. And I think sometimes with pressure, we can have a bad day because we're not really doing what we want. Someone else is having more influence over us and almost driving us to do something that, again, we might not necessarily want to do.
Tim has followed up with, as he calls it, Education Time, a NationalGeographic.com piece about tardigrades and water bears. So I'll be reading that as soon as we finish, because, it's always good to learn, Tom. You never know.
As we said at the beginning, is that we know that by your comments, you will add to what we are doing. So Tim has provided some education for us, and probably others, a little bit about what's going on in the world of nature in regards to pressure.
Very nicely done.
Right.
So, Tom, we're a little short today, which is fine. I don't think anyone will mind having some extra time in their life. My question to you is, what's your one thing? That's right, that thing that's going to help us figure out this whole issue, get us thinking about something we're going to be talking about all week. So when it comes to feeling pressured and what it is, what's that one thing?
Yeah, that's, I think the key thing is whether it is something that we are perceiving or creating for ourselves, or is it a reality? Because I think sometimes, as you started, we sometimes think it's pressure, and in reality, it's not. It's just our perception of how the person said it, how we're feeling it, who it was that they said. And we all probably do. If the CEO or the boss or somebody who has leverage over us or is supervising us says it, we likely will be like, oh, it means I've got to get it done right now. I was talking with a client about that a few weeks ago, where they were feeling like anytime the CEO said something, they're like, oh my gosh, I got to get this done right away. And I just said to them, I said, have you ever asked what the deadline is? Like, no, I just assume they need it right away. And when they finally went and asked, they realized that wasn't necessarily the case. And so I think, sometimes it's we self-impose. I think, as Carol shared that. And I think trying to understand what that pressure is it real, or is it something we have just created based on what's real for us? We believe that, based on my knowledge, experience, and perspective, that when the CEO asks for something, they typically want it, right away, without necessarily making sure that is what is real for the person or for ourselves at that time.
Great. As you're speaking, I thought of another kind of pressure, Tom. Another cause of pressure, and that is comparison. And if you suddenly said to me today, hey, Bob, I've got great news. I just got 3 more speaking opportunities in the next couple of months, I would feel pressured to go out and find 4. And I think for a lot of us, it's comparison, and that's one of the things I've seen at networking events. People go to networking events, they talk to other people that do what they do, and someone says, oh, I'm having a great month. And the person who heard that's like, oh, I must be doing something wrong because they're having a great month. And then they feel that pressure to accomplish something. Or, you read an article in the paper, this startup got up and running in 2 years. And you're like, oh, I'm at 2 years and 1 month, and I'm not I haven't had an IPO yet. And you're like, what a failure I am. So I think there's some pressure that we impose because of those forces of comparison that can really be damaging. So I think that's my thing. It just hit me. It's like, when are you comparing for a good reason, and when are you comparing to something that's really apples and oranges?
Sure.
Because your success is different than mine.
Right. We're passing judgment on who and what they are, rather than just saying this is what's real for me. And that's what's real for them. And that's going to be different because we are unique. and we're traveling our own pathway. And so I think sometimes that's, again, goes back to I think what you're saying is that when we start judging, we put pressure on ourselves that we need to be something else that maybe we are not, or we are not intended to be.
Correct. Thank you for crystallizing what I was saying so well, Tom.
Sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
No, it was great. I appreciate you making sense of my meanderings. So, Tom, why don't we wrap this baby up?
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Thanks for your comments. And Tim, for your education, a little bit about what's going on in nature. We'll have to all check that out.
Tardigrades.
Yes, tardigrade.
I love that
Anyhow,
name. That'd be a great band name, wouldn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, the tardigrades.
I think everybody would be thinking, like, what the heck is that?
Not everybody. Tim wouldn't be.
Tim would know. And probably a few others would definitely know. So anyhow, if you enjoyed our conversation about pressure, maybe not the most recent part of it, and talking about tardigrades, or maybe you're interested in tardigrades, those are the things that we talk about. We talk about what's real for us inside the Ring of Renegades. So we hope that you will consider joining us there. It's easy to do. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades, and then you can be a part of our growing group. You just have to ask and tell us why you're a renegade. We hope that we will see you inside of there, or that we will see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of today's Antidote. And as we go out here, I'm going to share some further information about the Ring of Renegades. We hope that you will join our group. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you soon.
Carving your own path is tough. You want and need a community to offer you insights and advice, share inspiration, provide support, and save you time and money. But where do you find all that? Here's the easy answer: the Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners identify their next steps. Here's some of what you will find at the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. Just go to ringofrenegades.com and join today. Find and accomplish those next steps.